are sending, if you haven't already, voters in Seminole County, if they haven't already checked their mail, mailer has gone out for renewal notices. So if you had a vote by mail request on file as of the general election of 2022, we wanted to remind voters of a specific law change. And that happened with Senate Bill 90, which requires that all vote by mail requests after the general election of 2022 be canceled. So essentially, going into January of 2023, we had 0 vote by mail requests on file. So we are reminding voters who would like to continue to vote by mail that they need to make a request. Now that request, vote by mail request in Florida, is good for only one general election cycle as opposed to 2 before the law was changed. So that means after 2024 general election, they will need to make a request again. So we're doing a couple of things. As I spoke of a mailer, we sent out about 86,000 renewal notices to voters in the mail, explaining that there are 3 ways in which you can actually renew your request. You can call our office at 407-585-VOTE, 407-585-8683. You can go online to voteseminole.org and click on Vote by Mail and fill out the form that way. It's very convenient. Or you can go back online, you can print the form out, complete it, and you can bring it into our office, and we can take care of it that way. Now, there are some things that have changed on the vote by mail request. You are required to provide either the last 4 digits of your Social Security number or your Florida driver's license number. That's how we're able to identify that you are who you say you are. That is a safeguard. So we want to make sure that we were just reminding people and getting folks ready for the upcoming elections that could occur in municipalities at the end of this year, and of course the 3 elections that will occur in 2024. We're going to be at all the Seminole County libraries between July 17th and July 21st. So we encourage you to come out and see us. We'll have a table set up, so we'll be accepting vote by mail requests. If you need to update your address, please update your address. That is a benefit to you, and I'll tell you why. If you've moved and you didn't update your address, that doesn't mean that you won't be able to vote, but when you do try to go vote in person, and your address doesn't match the address that we have on file, it's going to take a little longer for you because you're going to have to complete some more paperwork. So let's get it taken care of now so we can make sure you get in and out when it's time to vote in person. If you need to, if you want to make a mail ballot request, of course, you can do that as well. So come out and see us, and that's the dates of July 17th to July 21st of this year. We'll be at all county libraries doing that. We also, Ballot Tracks. Ballot Tracks is a software that we partner with that allows vote-by-mail voters to track their vote-by-mail ballot, when it is mailed out to them, when we receive it, and when it's tabulated. You can sign up for that through emails or text messages. So folks that we had emails for, we sent out about 17,000 emails, and we reminded them that way that, hey, you can request a vote by mail. You can request a ballot be mailed to you. You're going to need to do that. This is the reminder. And when we did that this week, we're at about 6,000 requests on file as of this writing. Okay, so we want to make sure that everybody is aware. For my vote by mail voters, if you want to continue to vote by mail, please make sure you get your request in preparation for next year. And with that, I will close and I will open it up for any questions.
I'm sorry, you said every library, July, what are the dates again?
So every Seminole County library. There is an Altamont Springs library here in Seminole County, and that we will not be there, if I understand correctly, right, Kendall? But we will be at all Seminole County public libraries.
From the 17th to the 21st?
That is correct. And we also encourage voters to follow our social media platforms. We have award-winning platforms that we put out the most accurate and up-to-date information. We always encourage that because there is some mis-dis and malinformation out there. So get your most accurate information from the elections office, okay?
Of the 6,000 who have resent requests, can you share any demographics information? Are you finding that certain people are seeking this out and others are still missing?
No, we don't track it that way. So, you know, our job is to get those requests in and get them processed, right? What it is for us is it's a lot of work. if you think about, 86,000 requests, we want to get that paperwork, because that's what it is. It's a ton of paperwork that needs to be completed prior to us starting planning for the upcoming elections next year. So it's an administrative way of getting the work done, but we don't track the demographics of it.
What will be the challenge for your office if people wait until closer to the election to put in a request?
Well, our office always rises to the occasion, so we will continue to process vote-by-mail ballot or requests all the way up into the deadline for each election. But it helps.
Or numerous mailings, like between now and as we move into next year?
Well, so we had one, so that's why we planned it for this year, planned it for this time now. So we're going to do it now. We've already sent it out, and that's 86,000 people that are going to get it. We'll continue our campaign in other avenues. As you can imagine, mailers are expensive. So we'll be doing other mailers next year, and we will include this information in those mailers. We actually combined all three. We combined mailers in 2020, and we found great success with that. We attached mail ballot requests to our voter information card. So next year we are required, every SOE is required by law to send a voter information card. So we will include that in our mailers next year for sure.
And again, just the 86,000 figure came from, did you go back to the last general election?
That is correct. So if you had a vote-by-mail request on file at the last general election, which was last year in 2022, those are the voters that we are speaking to today.
What concerns you about 6,000 people so far? I mean, we've seen a steady incline of people going to vote by mail. Is it possible, it might either be flat or even slightly down next year because people thought, hey, I did it in 22, so I'm automatically going to get one in 24?
Well, that's why we got to continuously speak to them. My concern would be is that they don't get it done in time. So that's why we want to continue this campaign to make people aware. And I agree, Greg. Yeah, we've seen that people after 2020 found that vote by mail was an extremely convenient method of voting. They prefer not to bring it back, put it in the mail. They would actually prefer to put it in a secure ballot intake station that are conveniently located here and at all the early voting sites. So it has turned out to be a very popular method of voting for us. So we want to continue to do that. And quite frankly, it saves tax dollars, because the more people that vote by mail, the less people we're processing in person. So then that means that we take a look at how many election workers we need, how many precincts we need. It all has an effect at the end of the day, which is why a lot of counties in Florida have really worked to push vote by mail. Pinellas County was one of the largest counties that had a huge vote by mail population, and it had a reduction in other areas. Now, does that mean that, yes, we have to open up more envelopes? Absolutely, but the cost of running early voting sites and election day sites is pretty heavy too.
Are you done? Okay, so totally different question for a story I'm working on. There seems to be, again, another push similar to what we saw in 2020 to have open primaries. And I guess as an election supervisor, do you have an opinion one way or the other about open primaries, or does the collection of supervisors of election in Florida, they have an opinion about that? Narrowly getting past. What are your thoughts on open primaries, good or bad?
Well, I'll explain it this way, because I get this question a lot speaking in public. I always say I use the Miami Heat and Orlando Magic. You have these two basketball teams. Do they choose the players for each team? Right? Does the Miami Heat choose basketball players for the Orlando Magic? Does the Orlando Magic choose the basketball players for the Miami Heat? They do not. when I explain it that way, and most people are understanding the sports analogy, they're like, oh man, when I think about it that way, maybe I don't want the other team picking my players for me. And they then say, oh, okay, well, maybe open primaries is not such a great idea. So it's not so much of an opinion, it's giving the perspective of understanding what you're asking and what you're going to get. You're going to have folks, and let's be real, they can do it now. We do see party changes come in as we get closer to primary elections. We see that. Folks can change their party affiliation up to 29 days prior to an election. So yes, people do, but that's not in large part, right? With open primaries, now you're giving the other team the opportunity to choose players for your team. The way it works in Florida with the closed primary, as you know, is the teams get to choose their own players, and then they get together at that general and let voters decide. So I think it's just giving the voter a perspective to understand how it really works. And I also explained that in the state of Florida, we have something called universal primaries. So if you have two candidates in a race of the same party affiliation, there is no write-in candidate or a party-affiliated candidate or no party-affiliated candidate at the general election, then that race becomes an open race for all voters at the Florida primary election. It's called the universal primary.
But as you know, the write-in loophole has been used by both parties to
close the primary. Yes.
Does the write-in loophole need to go away?
I agree with that. I think that the legislator would probably need to take a look at changing the rules around the write-in candidate loophole, because that is what happens. Obviously, we see that write-in candidates come in, their name doesn't appear on the ballot, but it allows them to go to the general election, which closes a primary. So they would probably need to address that. And maybe folks would second guess wanting open primaries. I don't know. I don't have an opinion about it either way, because we are the administrators of the elections. We don't offer opinions about how voters want to see it done. It's my job to just give them the perspectives so they can best make the choices that they have to when that time comes.
But as a supervisor, you say you support removing that write-in loophole.
I would ask that the legislator take a look at it, because is it being used properly is really the question for them to answer. Is that it?
I think so.
All right. Thanks, guys, for coming out. I appreciate it. We'll see a lot more of each other next year.